MTP Patient Therapy Module webinar. Before we begin the presentation, I'd like to briefly review the webinar interface. First off, if you have any questions or comments at any point during the presentation, you may submit your questions in writing using the questions box on the webinar tool. Simply enter your question and our moderator will respond. All questions are logged, so if we don't have an answer or don't get to your question, we will email you after the presentation. To listen and participate in audio broadcast, you have two options. First, in the webinar toolbar, click the plus symbol to open the audio options. You will have the option to use mic and speakers or use telephone. We strongly recommend you use telephone. Dial in and enter the access code and the PIN provided on your screen. If you are unable to dial in, you may use the mic and speakers option. To use the mic and speakers option, you must have speakers on your PC and you must unmute your speakers to hear us. If you wish to speak with us, you must have a microphone and a headset. Finally, the webinar will be recorded and made available online. A link will be posted on the CMS website. We will notify you when that is posted. This afternoon we are going to be discussing the Patient Therapy Claims module. It is accessed by hovering your mouse over the CCS modules in the menu under CCS modules under Patient Therapy Claims. The Patient Therapy module is used to enter, modify, print, and track details relating to PT and OT services provided by a therapist to a client. This module also allows you to create a HIPAA-compliant record layout to upload to the fiscal intermediary for processing of payment of services. In order to create an electronic claim, there are required fields that must be entered in the registration module. That is a webinar that we covered earlier today, and if you need more information on those required fields, you can go to the recorded webinar that will be on the CMS website. The required fields are listed in the medical information screen, the referral screen, the case status screen, the MTU assignment screen, and the therapy services screen. In order to get started, you will need to select Create PTRs. But before I do that, the first thing I'd like to do is show you how to print a blank PTR. That would be through the blank PTR menu option. So click on blank PTR, and it allows you to select the PTRs, whether you want the whole batch of PTRs by PT or a batch of PTRs by OT or individual PTRs. For this example, I'm going to select individual PTRs. What this option does, it allows you to select to print out a hard copy PTR so that you can provide it to a therapist to handwrite in therapy services provided so that a clerk or somebody can go in at a later time to key enter the data that's been written on the hard copy document. In this case, we're going to go ahead and select a quarter because they're printed by quarters. And I'm going to go ahead and select a year. And then I'm going to click on Submit. And it allows you to select a specific patient in which you want to print off these PTRs for. There's two ways you can select your patient or your client. You can either select them by selecting a county and then the MTU associated to the county, or you can enter the patient's last name. In this case, I am just going to enter the patient's last name. You can click on Find or hit Enter. Press Enter. select your patient by clicking on the radio button, and then close your screen, and it should appear on your search screen. Click on the Continue button to see the blank PTR. And then your blank PTR comes up with all the related data to the client that you just selected. And then you can print that screen. So when you bring that screen up, all you need to do is come over here and you can print that screen. It's just a regular PDF file. Okay, and then just close it by X selecting the box here. Okay, so that is how you go ahead and you print a blank PTR. Fairly simple. The next thing I'd like to show you is how to create a PTR. You go up to the CCS modules again. You come down to the Patient Therapy Claims, and then you click on Create PTR. Again, you have to select an individual client too, because you can only enter one client PTR at a time. There is another option. Not only can you search by county and MTU, but you can search by client. And if you have an existing PTR that you're looking for, if you click on the advanced search options, it actually allows you to drill down even further to find an existing PTR. All the PTRs have a unique number, so you can actually go straight to the PTR that you want to modify and you want to add more days to by entering the PTR number here, if you know it. If not, you can search by the therapy type, the therapist, and the month and year. That is just an additional way that you can search for a specific PTR that's already been entered. In this case, I am just going to enter the patient's last name first. And click Find. I'm going to select my patient. I'm going to close my pop-up. Now, I want to go over the buttons briefly here. The unreviewed PTRs applies, it should not show on all counties' screens, search screens. That applies to LA County. Right now they have a function that allows them to review the PTRs before they actually generate the PTR batch. So most counties, when they log in, they will not see it. You're seeing it on my screen because I'm logged in as a system admin. Create PTRs is where you would go, where we're going to go today to actually create a new PTR. Search PTR would be a good way to use if you use your advanced search functions, and then search PTR allows you to drill down and provide more criteria for searching for a specific PTR. Or if you want to search for all the PTRs by a specific client, you can just enter the client information and click on Search PTRs, and it shows you all the PTRs that have already been generated. Clears the screen and the search criteria that you previously entered. In this example today, we're going to go ahead and just click on Create PTR. This is your PTR screen, entry screen. At the top is the patient information, so you always know which patient you are entering the PTR for. The second one is the record details. This is really important. We'll go over this a little in great detail. The day details are the specific criteria for the day that you're providing therapy. And then we'll talk about the reviewed by and the last updated fields. So the first field that I want to discuss is the PTR date field. That field is a very important field because it is driven by the date requirements in the registration screen. When you've registered your patient, there is a medical eligibility determine date on the case status screen. It's the first day you determine the client eligible. You cannot generate PTRs prior to that date. So this PTR date is driven by that. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to, if the PTR is within this month, you can use the calendar option to select the day from the calendar. Or you can just remove the existing defaulted date and enter a date in the past. You cannot enter dates for the future. It defaults to the OT therapist. You can change that therapist to PT, but that is a different PTR, and it's going to tell you, do you want to navigate to another PTR if you change this from OT to PT. This therapist information is coming from your therapy services screen. So there again, that is the reason why it's required on the therapy services screen to enter a therapist and therapy type. The assigned date is the date that the therapist is assigned to the case. This date also drives the PTR. So if I attempted to enter a therapy service prior to 3/1/2010, it will not let me because there's no therapist assigned prior to that date. Each PTR will be assigned a unique PTR number. That is the number that you can use to search by. That is also a number that you can see when we go to print it. It actually shows up in quite a few places. It shows up on the batch screen. It shows up in a lot of places. So it's just another way of being able to identify the specific PTR for the client. Now remember, a PTR is based on month and year, and it's still that way. So if you decide to do a PTR outside a specific month and year, then you have to create another month and year, and that's the way that it currently is in the legacy as well. So in this case, we're staying within the period of time. Actually, I'm going to make this 03/02/10. And then it refreshes your screen. So, and then as you can see, it pulls a specific MTU. Now, if you wanted to do a PTR for a different MTU, you would have to change the MTU on the MTU assignment screen. There again is a required field on the MTU assignment screen. Okay. On the day details, this should be very familiar to you. We have the option of selecting treatment individual, but we have a new field. It's called treatment group. Treatment individual is actually reported in a claim that gets submitted to HP for payment. Group is not. Okay. If you select treatment, you have to select your cooperation, your response, and your plan. Okay. If you select evaluation, those three things are not required. Case conference, consultation do not require cooperation, response, or plan, and neither do any of the other options, the individual, the group, or the indirect. Okay. When you enter the unit, which is 15-minute increments, it automatically calculates the minutes associated to the unit. So in this case, I'm just going to put in 2 units in treatment. I'm going to select cooperation. And as you can see, I've selected 2 units, which is 15-minute increments, and it says 30. And then I'm going to enter a response, which is fair, and a plan. So that is all that is required on a individual day PTR if you were entering treatment. Now there's other fields that are on here. How many of the above are IEP activities? That is a field that is used by LA. You are more than welcome to use it, but that is the reason why we added that field. Documentation is a number from 1 to 99. It's in minutes. Your field visit only allows you to select 1 unit. And then mileage is 1 to 99. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save and Review, because for all counties except LA, saving and reviewing is 1 step. If it's LA, it's 2 different buttons. in 2 different steps. Okay. As you can see down below, it's pre-populated my name as the reviewed by and the reviewed on and the last updated by and date. Okay. If I wanted to delete this PTR that I just entered, this day within this PTR that I just entered, all I'd have to do is click on delete, but I'm not going to do this for this example. Okay. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to go back out of this PTR because I want to see what it actually looks like on the PTR. I want to see what it's going to print out like if I was to print out this PTR. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the back button, and it will take me back to my results screen. So this is actually the PTR that I just entered. Here's my month and year, because remember I said PTRs that are in a month and year are entered by month and year, and the days are entered within the month and year. The CCS number, the patient's name, the MTU, the therapist, what kind of service it is. There's your unique PTR number. And then you have the option of adding an exception code. Exception codes are used to indicate that for whatever reason this PTR is being entered late. If it's entered late, then you can add an exception to override timeliness. Okay. To add an exception, I'm going to show you how to add an exception. You would click on the PTR. You would indicate why there's an exception, and then you would click on Add Exception. By doing that, what you've done is essentially just now is add the exception. It turns into a code when it's actually submitted to EDS on this specific PTR. So only this month and year will show an exception. Now, once you associate this to a batch, you can have a batch of 10 different PTRs, and only one of them will show this exception because only this PTR within the batch has an exception. Let me show you how to remove this exception from this PTR. You do the same thing. You click on the checkbox, and then you click Remove, and it removes the exception from the PTR. Okay. Again, if you want to delete this PTR, all you have to do is check this box, click on Delete PTR, and it will delete the PTR. And once you've deleted it, we can't bring it back for you. So be very careful about using that button. Okay. Now, what I said is I want to go back and I want to see the printed PTR. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this PTR. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on Print PTR. And then it shows me my month PTR. Here's the month and year. Here is the days of the month. I only entered one day. I entered, it is treatment, 2 units. I entered all of my cooperation, my response to my plan. And it gives me the details related to the client. It tells me that the therapist is Karen. It tells me when my last evaluation date is. I didn't enter a treatment diagnosis on the medical information screen, but if you do enter it, it's not required for a PTR, but if you want to see it on the hard copy PTR, you're more than welcome to put it in the medical information screen, and it will show up here on your hard copy. Shows your date of birth, the CCS number, the SIN number, the year, the quarter, the medical direction, the MTU, the patient name, and if I had left an exception code, it would show right here. So, I've got one PTR out here. I've got one day on my month PTR, and doggone it, I want to add another one. I want to add another day to this PTR. So one of the things I can do is I can click on the month and year PTR, and there is my PTR. That's just the day that I had entered before, and I'm going to add another day. And what it does is it clears the screen for me to enter another day for that month and year PTR. And I'm going to go ahead and this time I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to say P, and what that does is it's saying the patient, there's a reason why the patient is missing this therapy session. And I can select the reason why they're missing it. And what this does is it translates it to a code. So when you look at the PTR, it's going to show a code on the PTR. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Damn it. Okay, that didn't work so well. Well, that's not working right now, so we're going to work on that. Let's just do this. Let me go ahead and add an evaluation. And then we've got it saved and reviewed for this day. And then hit back. And then I can print it again just to see what it looks like. And there's my evaluation on day 5. Okay. We will get that other issue resolved with the P and T and putting in the code for when a patient or a therapist misses the session. It's a little bug. All right. Okay, so say, for example, we wanted to modify one of the, say, for example, we're going to go right back into this PTR, and we want to modify one of the days. So I want to go back to day 5 here. And I'm going to change this from evaluation to consultation. And I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at it again. And then changed it from evaluation to consultation. So that is how you enter a PTR. If you want to change the month and year and you want to enter a new PTR, all you would have to do is click on the month and year again. Oh, this is I'm not going to be able to do this one because it's got March and I don't have anything before March. All you would do is enter the new month and year, and then it says, do you want to navigate to a new PTR? And then you say yes, and it will provide you the ability to enter a new PTR prior to this month and year PTR that you've already previously entered. Okay. So what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to click on the back button to go back. And I'm going to click on the back button to go back again to the main screen. Okay. So now we just got one PTR in there for the client, right? And I wanted to see if I want to see that PTR. I could enter the advanced options. Oops. And it brings back up my PTR that I just entered for that month and year. Okay. Okay. So now that we've generated a PTR, and the other thing I wanted to show you is that if I was to change this to PT, like for example, if I want to create a new PTR for PT, it says, are you sure you want to navigate to a new PTR? In this case, I don't have a PT entered for this client, and it's going to tell me you don't have a PT, so you cannot enter a PTR for PT. If I did, though, it would just clear the screen and allow me to enter a brand new PTR for the same month and year for the PT services with all this information that I've entered below. Okay. So that essentially is how you enter a PTR. What I'd like to do now is show you how to batch it. Now, when you are creating PTRs, the things that you do in the web versus in the legacy is you'll have to enter the registration piece of the client information so that it feeds into the PTR piece. You'll be required to create the PTR, and then you're going to be required to batch it. And that's how it is today in legacy, but this method is a little bit, I think this is easier through the web. But you're going to be required to close the batch in order for it to show up in legacy. So I'll show you how to do that now. So you go up to your CCS modules, you come down to your patient therapy claims option, you come down to PTR batch, and you click on PTR batch. Now there are several ways to search for a PTR that's ready to be batched. You can do it by a period. You know that all the PTRs in a certain period that you want to pull in. Or you can do it by county and MTU. Or you can do it by batch ID. Or you can do it by status. In this case, I'm going to do it by county and MTU because I want to batch up all the PTRs by Butte County, MTU County, and I'm going to click on Create Batch because basically what I'm doing is this will go out and look for all the PTRs that are ready to be batched. Oh, shoot. Okay, so this is what this message is telling me, action is not permitted because this MTU already has an open batch, which is good because it doesn't let me generate a batch that I've already got open. So I'm going to go ahead and search. Do I have a batch already open out there? I didn't know I did it, but look it. Lo and behold, I do. So here's my batch ID, and I say, gosh, you know, I didn't even know I had any PTRs in this batch, but I want to go see which PTRs I already have in there. All I have to do is click on the batch ID, and I know they're in there, but it's not showing them to me. I'll have to go out and figure out where they're from. Oh, this is... So I'm sorry, my mistake. This is the batch that is open that is saying that I can add PTRs to this open batch. So basically what I've done is I've created this batch before, and I am going to be adding the PTRs to this batch, this open batch already. Okay. The other button was used if a batch had never been created before. So click on Add PTRs to Batch. And it shows these are all the PTRs that were previously generated that I'm going to be adding. And so it asks me, do I want to add these PTRs to existing batch? Do I just want to print these PTRs, or do I want to go back? And I'm going to go ahead and add these PTRs to an existing batch by clicking on Add PTRs to existing batch, and it says, are you sure you want to add these PTRs to this batch? And I'm going to say, okay. And then it says records have been successfully should have been updated successfully. PTR successfully added to batch 6407. So I'm going to do a search by 6407 just to look for my batch. So I'm going to click on back. I'm going to go back one more just to see what it looks like. And I'm going to put in 6407. And I'm going to do a search. And there's my batch. I'm going to click on it, and there's all my PTRs within the batch. If I want to remove a PTR from a batch, all I'd have to do is remove, let me keep that one. I'd click on the PTR that I want to remove, and click on Remove PTR from Batch, select OK, and it automatically removes the PTR from the batch. It doesn't delete it, it just removes it from the batch. If you want to delete the PTR, you need to go back to Create PTR to delete the specific PTR. Okay. If you want to print a PTR, you can click on it and click on Print PTR, and it prints the specific PTR within the batch. And then click on Back, takes you back to your search results screen. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about the search results screen. We were talking about earlier about if you want to transmit this this batch, this 6407 batch, you need to select the batch, and then you need to change the status to closed by clicking on Closed Batch. And you can see now this batch is showing as closed. What that does is that allows it to be seen in the transmission screen in the legacy system. So when you log into Create Transmit PTR claims in Legacy, you will see your new batch because you've just closed it. If I select it again and then I click Reopen, it changes the status back to Reopen again, and it removes it from the transmission screen if you want to modify it again. I also have the ability to print the batch, which prints all the PTRs within the batch at once. So if I select it and then I click Print Batch, it will print out every single PTR within the batch. In addition, you have the ability to add an exception. The exception can be added. It means that every single PTR within that batch gets assigned an exception code. So if I clicked on this, I select an exception code, I click on Add Exception, it automatically applies that exception code to every single PTR within that batch. Okay. So I'm going to remove that by clicking on Remove Exception. In addition, the exception codes are changed to the actual code is applied to the PTR that gets sent to EDS or to HP. So it's not the actual verbiage, it's a code that gets transmitted over. Okay. Once the batch is transmitted, then what happens is you will be assigned a transmission number. So the status will change to transmit, the transmission number will appear, and the date transmitted will appear here. So then you will be able to go into any case at any time and see, if you do a search by batch, which batches have been transmitted, which batches are closed, which batches are open. In addition, you will be able to see the number of PTRs within each batch. In this case, there shows that there's only 4 OT PTRs and there's no PT PTRs. So in big batches, you'll be able to do a count to make sure that you've got everything accounted for. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the back button. And I'm going to go ahead and do a search again. And it should bring me right back to that batch. I'm going to click on this and close it again. And I think I'm going to go into the training environment and legacy so you can see where that batch ID shows up in the legacy system. Bear with me. I'm logging into where I need to be for the... Okay, so all of these options will be gone on Monday. The only thing that you will see is create, transmit, PTR claim. And when you go in there, if you have closed your batch, you hit enter, and all the batches, your existing batches, will be in there, as well as any new batches that you enter. So any questions that you have about existing batches that or existing PTRs that you've already entered, they're going to be in the new web-based system. You'll be able to find them. You'll be able to modify them. You'll be able to delete them if you want. You'll be able to add new PTRs. You'll be able to close open batches. You'll be able to open closed batches, and you're going to be able to see all the transmitted batches. So everything that you see today in the legacy, you'll be able to see in the web as well. In this case, what batch we were looking at, which batch we just created, was 6407. And go ahead and transmit. And it was transmitted. And so then you would do the same thing that you do today as far as contacting the CMSNet help desk, telling that you transmitted it, giving them the transmission ID and all the information. And as you can see, if I was to back out, I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to search for that batch. And now it says that the status is transmitted. It has a new assigned transmission number and a new transmission date. So that is how you enter and create and modify a PTR. That is how you batch a PTR. That's how you close and open and transmit a batch. Add exceptions, delete batches, delete PTRs, and that concludes our Create PTR webinar. If anyone has any questions, please either use your webinar toolbar and click on the plus symbol to open the audio options. You'll have the options to use the mic or the speaker or use the telephone. We prefer that you use the telephone to dial in and enter access code and PIN provided on your screen. However, if you're not able to dial in, you may use the mic and the speaker option. To use the mic and speaker option, you must have speakers on your PC, and you must unmute your speakers to hear us. If you wish to speak with us, you must have a microphone and a headset. All right.
So do you want them to use the raise hand feature on there to indicate if they're interested? I don't see any raise hands. Oh, wait, hold on.
Any questions? Use the raised hand feature.
Oh, here we go. Carrie Matheson.
Carrie? Hello, Carrie?
Let me send her oh, she got disconnected.
Oh. Priscilla? Priscilla?
Sorry. On the first screen where there's that box, the IEP box, is that going to produce some kind of report that we can use for our time studies?
I'm sorry. Which one are you referring to?
I can't remember what. I think it was at the very beginning. There was a box. Is there an IEP? Sorry. And IEP yes or no. What is that going to do?
Oh, you're talking about on the PTR screen itself?
Yeah.
The Create PTR screen? It does not generate a report currently, but for LA, I believe they've requested the ability to generate a report for it. I'm sure that we can make it a public report if it's something that people would find useful. What it's used for, I don't know. I'm not a therapist, so I have no idea. And I have no idea what LA is using it for either, unfortunately.
We have a big time study we have to do for IEP hours, so they really... generate that.
All right.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Teresa Gonzalez.
Teresa? Teresa?
She has phone connection. No? Okay.
No phone?
No, she has phone connection.
If you enter the pound, the pin, and pound, you should be able to speak with us.
Okay, Liliana had a question, but I just sent her her audio pin again. She didn't key it in.
You need to key in the pound, your pin and pound in the phone in order to speak.
Let's try Carrie again. Carrie Maston. Is she there?
Carrie, are you there? Okay.
I don't have any other ones. Did you want to go over any of the questions that were submitted by people?
We're going to be reviewing the questions that are submitted online, and we'll be providing answers, and then we will post them to the CMS website for future reference along with this webinar. So be patient with us because it's going to take a while to type these up and get them posted. So it's probably going to be the next couple of days that it's going to be posted. But is there anybody else?
Yeah, Susan. When is this?
Okay. Susan.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, Sue.
I have a question. I'm looking in the manual, Julie, on page 72, where we're talking about the data we're filling in. And under consultation, it says enter a number. This data not required and will not be included in transmitted claim. It says the same for other. Are we not going to be billing for those items?
Oh, you know what? That's a typo. Can you send that to me in an email, Sue?
I sure will.
It is transmitted. It is sent on. It is sent for billing.
Okay, excellent. I feel better. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Karen Brown.
Karen.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, you think you're overwhelmed.
Yeah. On one of the screens, when you were entering the PTR data, it said reviewed by and review date.
Correct.
Who is those persons?
Well, it's going to be, for all counties except LA, it's going to be the same person. It's going to be the same person entering it.
The person
We
who's
don't have
entering.
Pardon?
It's the person who's entering the data.
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
Correct. But for LA, it's going to be different, and they know the rules. LA knows their rules.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mary Lou's, but I'll send her her audio pin. She doesn't have her.
Mary, you need to enter your audio pin. Pound, enter the pin, and then pound again in your telephone before we can hear you.
There we go. All right, let's try Mary.
Okay, I can hear you now, Mary.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I was just wondering on the PTRs, after we've entered all our data for the quarter, are there going to be any reports we can run off of those? Like, can we run a report to show us how many OT evals were completed for the quarter or how many MTCs were attended?
Yeah, if the data's in the system, we can create reports for whatever you might need. We just need to know what the criteria is for the report. For example, we need to know the select criteria. We need to know what you want to see on the report, how you want to see it on the report, how often you need to generate it, all that. But you just need to provide the criteria to us.
Okay, do you want me to send that to you in an email after a little while?
Yeah, can you wait till we go live and
Sure.
work out the bugs? You know, give
Sure,
us
no problem.
a little time to get through this first
All right, thank you, Mary.
process. Thanks, Mary.
There's several questions that are coming in on here.
Okay. That's fine if you send the questions online because we're going to be, like I said, we are going to be printing them, and it might be useful for other people in the future to look online and see those questions. So it's actually better if you send them in writing than you do verbally, because if you send them verbally, there's no reference back to them.
Sue had Sue Johnson.
Hey, Sue.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So for those of us that are batching our PTRs through M2 Online, does our billing technician enter them as if they were the treating therapist, or how does that get entered into Legacy or
Okay.
into the web?
MTU Online has nothing to do with what I'm working on here, with what this module is.
I understand, but see, our therapist will not be entering onto the web, so I'm assuming it will be our billing technician.
Right, right. So
And they'll just enter it exactly the same way as if they were the treating therapist?
It would be the same way they do it today. Whoever does it today in Legacy is the same people that would be doing it in the web on Monday.
Okay, so her entries will not differ that much then?
No, they shouldn't differ.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye, Sue. All right. Well, that concludes our webinar for today. Please remember that these questions will be posted on the CMS website, and the questions and answers and the webinar will be posted. Thank you for your time. Bye.